Welcome to Forum One's March 2015 webinar, Crafting Long-Form Content, Transitioning to Digital-First Publishing. I'm Kurt Velker from Forum One, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. To prevent background noise, all the phone lines are currently muted. A little bit about Forum One before we begin. Forum One is a full-service digital agency that partners with influential organizations to craft solutions for the world's most pressing problems. We've been working to do this since 1996, and in that time we've completed more than 2,000 successful projects, worked with more than 750 influential clients, and we do 100% of the work that we do is working with mission-driven organizations that are working in education, health, international development, the environment, and other pressing global challenges. The services that Forum One provides are digital strategy, design, development, a specialization in data, and we support all of the digital solutions that we create for our customers for the long term. Our speakers today are Lisa Drobek. She's a senior user experience designer at Forum One. She spends her time creating content strategies and information architectures that extend a client's brand. She's been doing this for about 10 years. Prior to joining Forum One, she was with Capital One, where she worked on a number of their mobile products, as well as their web digital products. Interesting fact about Lisa is that she is an avid collector of vintage kitchenware. So if you bump into Lisa around town, be sure to ask her about her mom's tea kettle, I think it is. Is that right, Lisa?
Correct.
Her grandma's tea kettle. John Osterman is the Deputy Director for Communications and Publications at the Center for Global Development. He's been leading innovation on CGD's publications since 2008, and recently, over the last year and a half or so, John has really been leading the transition from traditional print-focused publications into long-form HTML publications online, and we're going to hear a lot about that today. He's passionate about integrating print-centered processes with digital outputs, or better yet, really putting digital first in the work that he's doing. Interesting fact about John, he was a Peace Corps volunteer in Mauritania, where he taught English to high schoolers. Now I'd like to turn things over to Lisa. Lisa?
Thanks, Kurt. So I'm going to start off. Did you guys know studies show that people only remember 20% of what they read? And given that most of our websites are primarily text, most people are not reading what they're writing. Actually, most of you are already publishing long-form content. You are already publishing your long-form content as in-depth reports as PDFs. And today we're going to push you to think beyond that PDF, to think about your content in a more digital-first way, with the digital interactive elements you can engage with your audience. So John and I are going to help you make your long-form content more effective. First, I'm going to show you the advantages of digital-first publishing and how it can extend your reach of your message. Next, we're going to show that it's not as hard as you think. You can scale the digital-first transition for your organization's resources, and I'm going to give you some great examples on how other organizations have done so. And then finally, John is going to show you how he has scaled digital-first publishing for his organization, the Center for Global Development. You've all probably heard about Snowfall, which was published by the New York Times in December 2012. It got a lot of attention because it is one of the first great examples of long-form content. It's an online experience that really resonated with people, and it even won the 2013 Pulitzer Prize. Snowfall is an in-depth story about the avalanche that took some lives on Tunnel Creek in February of that year. The story details the personal experiences of the skiers, those who got caught in the avalanche, those who watched in awe, and those who missed it because they went down the other side of the mountain. Its rich imagery and engaging animations add to the story. And it's really long, thousands of words long, and it took me over 30 minutes to read it. And by read, I mean I was exploring the animations, watching some of the interviews, looking at the imagery, reading captions, just trying to piece together the entire story, because it actually follows 16 different people. But let's be real. This was a mammoth effort. It took 16 skilled professionals, authors, animators, designers, developers, 6 months to complete. I know all of you have the staffing resources like the New York Times, or not. And although we may not have those resources, there's a lot we can learn from this project. And it's not as hard as you would think it would be to produce something similar for yourselves. Most of you are already publishing long-form content as PDFs, but it wouldn't be as big of a stretch as you would think to publish long-form projects instead of those PDFs. You just have to think digital first about what interactive elements you want to use and carry out your research and writing. And you just carry out your research and writing in a similar process to your current one. I'm going to show a little of the interactions from Snowfall and go through it a little bit. The text is one nice readable column. There's videos interspersed. Some great animations that show Tunnel Creek. Captions, photos, more videos. Information about the skiers, their slideshows, and then some very intricate animations. So because the more senses you engage, the more memorable the experience will be for your audience. The more memorable the experience, the more they're apt to actually show this to others. And according to the Social Science Research Network, 65% of people are visual learners. Therefore, one of the best ways to drive the message home is through visual content. People remember 80% of what they see, but only 20% of what they read, and you're only going to remember 10% of what you hear from me today. Snowfall is shared and remembered because of its engaging interactive elements, its rich imagery, and the storytelling. So let's take a closer look at the advantages of digital-first publishing and long-form content. Accessibility. With mobile traffic on your website steadily rising, there's a greater need for mobile-friendly content and design so your content is accessible to those people who are constantly on the go. With long-form content, there are a lot of SEO benefits. It makes sense that the longer content would give you more opportunity for detailed storytelling and offer readers more value, and Google agrees. The search engine's algorithm actually gives you priority to longer, more in-depth content that offers substantial value to its readers. For instance, the average web page that ranks on the first page of Google search has over 2,000 words. This longer content also ranks higher for long-tail keywords and and attracts more backlinks and sharing on social media. And adding imagery like infographics and video will improve your statistics further. Another increase is increased engagement. If you only choose to publish one report as long-form content, pick that one report that will establish you as a thought leader and can help influence your audience. This piece will need to be very well written, genuine, and more comprehensive content. The more genuine your content, the more of an increase you will see in the time spent on page. More engagement with your content also means more visibility for your organization and reach. And this increased engagement can drive action to more donations and other conversions like newsletter signups. Long-form content gives you a better platform for storytelling as well. And as humans, we're hardwired to respond to well-told stories that evoke emotion. Think about the times when you've been moved, maybe even to tears, by a story from a book, the mouth of a friend, or in a movie. We are moved to action by these stories. And the more detailed the story, the more engaging the content, the more likely we are to be moved by it and to share it with others too. At Forum 1, we like to think about digital-first publishing and long-form content as grouped by level of effort it would take to actually produce that content. There are high level of effort projects like Snowfall that we recommend as flagship reading experience for that one evergreen report that you want your organization to be known for, that you want others to point to your organization and recognize you as a thought leader in your sector. The medium level reports would be the noteworthy reports that your organization is already known for. These reports could take on a templated approach to a longer reading experience. And lastly, but certainly not least, the low-level effort reports, which are basically longer detail pages that include more than just the text from your PDF reports, but the imagery and graphics too. So we're going to start with the high level of effort reports first. Go big or go home, right? Why not? Most of the examples I'm going to show you in this section are very interactive and may require some outside partnerships for development, design, and even content strategy. These are all flagship reading experiences. The first example is the annual letter from the Gates Foundation. Love this example. It has such vivid imagery and storytelling. The Gates Foundation publishes their long-form reports as Gates Notes. This annual letter tells the story of the beginning of the Gates Foundation and explains the bet that's been made. The bet says the lives of the people in poor countries will improve faster in the next 15 years than in any other time in history, and their lives will improve more than anyone else's. With this bet, Gates sees opportunity and wants to make the most of it. In this report, he covers 4 main areas in which he thinks we will see the most change: health, farming, banking, and education. And this report goes into details regarding each section and ends with a call to action to raise your voice and sign up as global citizens. What they've done really well in this report is they've created a standalone reading experience without their main site's navigation, but it includes the navigation for this publication, which is on the left. You can see it with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the left. The text is fully searchable HTML. It's the full version available online for all audiences on all devices. They use a great source of rich imagery, photos, graphics, charts, and infographics. And they use sidebar content that emphasize their key points and videos throughout to explain complex issues. Another engaging example is the AAMC's Diversity Facts and Figures project. This project team worked with the Association of American Medical Colleges, the AAMC, to create a digital-first report entitled The Diversity in the Physicians Workforce Facts and Figures 2014. This long-form report is part of their Facts and Figures data series. It's actually the 18th report that they've published, but it's the first one to be fully readable online. All previous reports were PDFs. Publishing this long-form report without the PDF required the AAMC to think more digital first. They had to plan for using interactive elements such as imagery, infographics, and interactive visualizations for the charts and tables. The site structure, though, was guided by the previous year's PDF. What I really want to focus on with this example is the interactive data visualizations. On this screen, you can see some of the infographics toward the top, and then there's one of the data visualization charts, a pie chart. And then we also incorporated third-party data visualization tools such as TablePress, Visualizer, and HighCharts to make the interactive data visualizations that audiences can actually sort through for a more in-depth look at the data. With the AAMC, we pulled some numbers from their analytics, and they tell us a compelling story. 36% of readers are spending more than 3 minutes on the report, and they're averaging about 1 to 2 minutes per page. And if people are spending more time on your reports, then you will have more opportunities to engage with them, like get them to sign up for your newsletter or share their experience with others. And John will share some of CGD's quantifiable benefits during his talk. This is the last example for the high level of effort. It's from the Pew Research Center. They craft their long-form content similarly to the Gates Foundation. with vivid imagery and animations of delight. This piece actually is marketing for the book, The Next America. It sets the story and provides data around America's two main dramas. One, our population is becoming majority non-white, and two, at the same time, a record share is going gray. This piece takes advantage of long-form content storytelling abilities. Each section splits out and attempts to simplify and explain a smaller story with words and images. And with each section and graph, there's a little animation that adds to the delight and keeps the reader moving down the page. I've included the URLs with each of these examples so you can take a look at these so that you can see that delight. This report also makes great use of pull quotes and placement of videos. They use the videos as a secondary touch point to help explain more complex information. And to summarize what we've learned from these examples, the best reading experience is typically one column readable text, not too wide, with a font that's easy to read. Each of these examples also uses rich imagery to reiterate important points in the story and give break points in the text for the reader. Callouts and pull quotes are used to emphasize key information. They're also giving context to the data visualizations and timelines that'll help readers understand what's actually important in those numbers. And the videos and audio are used as secondary touch points, giving multiple ways to connect to your audience on a more personal level to explain the more complex information. And then using animations as delights, it delights the user and keeps them engaged and moving down the page. So now we're going to move to the reports that aren't as complicated and are more of a medium level of effort. You may want to seek help building some of these, but you may also be able to find tools online to help you as well. These examples are what we refer to as noteworthy reports that you could create as a longer detailed page template for and reuse for, like, say, that content type. This first vibrant example that I'm going to show is the USDA's Food and Nutrition Sciences Farm to School Census. I love the colors and the story that this piece tells. For this report, a project team worked with the USDA's FNS to convey the results and demonstrate the census program's participation, successes, and challenges. The team was challenged to visually tell the story of how schools can connect with local farmers and make healthier meals through using supporting data on the web and in print. We worked with FNS to design a compelling website along with infographics, data visualizations at the national, state, and school district levels. The online application celebrates and tells the story of a positive impact of locally sourced school food on local economies. It has inspired more schools to participate in the program. And our designers created the vibrant imagery and the whimsical visualizations to clearly exhibit an energy that reflects the farm to schools vision. We also created infographics for web and print use, including 200 posters printed and displayed throughout the USDA building. They were such a success that the series of infographics for each state has been uploaded to the site at the bottom of these media kit pages. We also created the tool for sifting through and downloading this data in the media kit section. And if that wasn't enough, we also did extensive analytics work and formed clear goals and conversion points for each type of audience and optimized for those conversions. By doing so, the site went from an 11% conversion to a 53% conversion, which includes using an implementation toolkit and district details for parents and school administrators, a data explorer for researchers, and infographics for media and community leaders for overall improving engagement and metrics. The next example is very animated. It's a landing page for the Opportunity Agenda's Opportunity Survey. This survey calls for action for readers to change the narrative about opportunity in this country. This piece tells a compelling story about the opportunity in America and those who experience unfair treatment. They use vivid visuals and infographics to illustrate key points, and animations to delight users and focus readers on moving down the page. Again, in order to see some of the delightful animations, you'll have to visit the links that are provided. With this piece, they're also looking for readers to download and read their PDFs as a point of conversion. So the PDF still plays a role in publishing. It's just an ancillary role here, and it's not the final product. Since these examples aren't necessarily as complicated as the first step, there are a lot of simple tools that can help you get started quickly. But for the more scalable approach, your organization will want to incorporate this type of storytelling into your current CMS platform. And that's what John is going to share. So now we're going to pivot and take a look at the things you could be doing in your own organizations to start scaling your transition to digital-first publishing. In this section, we're going to show an example of longer detail pages. You already have the research and the reports as PDF. Why not just take the text and imagery available as long detail pages online? That's exactly what CGD has done. Let's get into the details with John.
Thanks, Lisa. So I'm John Osterman. I'm Deputy Director for Communications at the Center for Global Development. We're a Washington-based think tank working to influence the policies of rich countries and powerful institutions to reduce global poverty and inequality. Just a little bit about our communications team so you can kind of compare yourself to us and see if this is something you guys can do. We have about 10 dedicated communications staff, 1 web manager included there. But really the only resource that what I'm about to show you took was my time, some skills in HTML and CSS and some JavaScript, and importantly, a responsive website, which you'll see is not entirely necessary, but it certainly helps make engaging content that people can read on any device. So the point here is that your transition to digital-first publication, it can scale to your organization, your skill levels, and your resources. So it really is a low barrier to entry to get started. This is our homepage, just for some context, what our site looks like. If you're there and you click on publications, you end up getting a listing page that pictured on the left here that lists our current publications. This is pretty common, and this is how we were doing all of our publications and how we're still doing it for some. You get the listing page on the left. You click on one of those, you get a summary page, and then if you want to read the entire thing, you have to go to a PDF. That's a standard model. It's all okay, I guess, but you know, with the PDF, they're a bit of a dead end. There's little interactivity. It's very difficult to share a PDF. If someone likes it, they've got to go back to the summary page and hit tweet or hit Facebook. They're unlikely to be able to do that straight from the report itself. And importantly, you just get no analytics from a PDF. I mean, you know that people have downloaded it, but you have no idea whether they've read it or liked it or anything. So those were motivations to try something different. And another reason I wanted to try something different was just the difficulty of making small changes to a PDF. You know, we post briefs, people see mistakes, they let us know there's a mistake, and then we have to go back to the original source files in InDesign or whatever to fix a typo, export the PDF, put it back online. It's really time consuming. So I wanted a way to just do it faster. That was another motivation. So, you know, PDFs are electronic documents, but they're really designed for print medium or to make like a facsimile of a print product. Another reason, mobile. We're up to about 16% mobile traffic. Other sites certainly have more. And PDFs just don't offer a very good reading experience on mobile. Pictured here is what that PDF looks like on, well, it says your mobile device, but that is my mobile device. You know, you open it, text is small, you've got to zoom in, you've got to pan around to read it. So, you know, if you take some steps to go digital first, that's not going to be an issue anymore. It'll adjust. Next, I'm going to show you my first sort of entree into this. It's been a process of evolution. At first, I started offering briefs that look like what's pictured here. They were standalone HTML documents that were sort of side by side with the PDF. A visitor on the landing page, the detail or summary page, could choose whether they want to read PDF or the HTML version. Doing this is not really what I'm advocating you do now. It was a lot of work to make these basically hand-coded documents. I did it at the time to offer a mobile experience when the website wasn't built to do that. But it did show us a few things, and that's why I bring it up. One is that people did choose to read the HTML versions over the PDF. And the other thing it showed us is that the full text versions actually outperformed the summary plus PDF versions. Here, the red bars are page views for the summary page of a publication, and the orange ones are page views of the full text document. And what you can see is that for a lot of these, the full text document got a lot more page views than the summary page, which means to me that they were actually bypassing the summary page, getting straight to the full text content. And you might wonder, well, how's that possible? There are a couple of reasons. As Lisa mentioned, these full text documents tend to have better SEO results. The full text is in there for Google and other bots to index. So they were likely showing up higher in results. People could go straight to the publication from a Google search. They're also much easier to share, and a lot of the traffic to these tend to be through social networks, directly to the content. So that's why they kind of outperformed the page that was supposed to lead to them. Again, I'm not advocating the standalone process. There are drawbacks to it. It wasn't integrated into our CMS. It was difficult to link, therefore, to related content, and it was extra work, you know, to keep that synced up with the content of the PDF. This is an image of how we're doing it now at CGD with briefs and with some other publications. With a responsive site that we launched a couple years ago, a lot of the work in the standalone versions just wasn't worth it anymore. It was unnecessary. Here we're just using the detail page of the publication where I used to have a summary and a link to the PDF to just house the entire text of the brief. I started with briefs thinking that these are the types of publications that ought to be most available to busy people on their mobile devices. Created a new template for it and tweaked the styling a little bit to make it a better reading experience. As Lisa mentioned, that includes using a larger font size, a little looser line spacing, and keeping that column width to a readable size. You can see here also that we've styled in some pull quotes to kind of break up the flow of the text. So in effect, we're just going from the listing page straight to the content. We're kind of bypassing this summary page. Now, this process does involve some custom CSS and some knowledge of JavaScript. What the JavaScript does is remove some of the standard navigation from the site and adds kind of in-document navigation. And it does some other things like making the pull quotes tweetable and things like that. So on the left here, you can see it with that custom CSS and JavaScript, and on the right is what it would look like without that. The bottom line here is that even if you did it pure HTML without the extra CSS and extra JavaScript, you're still going to have a better reading experience. Just because the text is all there Google will find it, and people can share it straight from the place where they're reading it. I wondered, as I was setting this up, like, what would this look like on someone else's site? So I took the liberty of looking at a related organization's site, the Peterson Institute for International Economics. They actually housed CGD for the first year or so of our life back in the early 2000s. And I just wanted to see if I did the same thing on their site, what would it look like? So you can see on the left here is how they present a publication, at least most of their publications. It's a summary page, related links, and link to PDF. And on the right here, I just kind of, I don't have access to their site. I just did this on the front end through my browser. Is what it might look like if they did a full text approach. And I think, it's a much nicer reading experience. It gives them the opportunity to put in some infographics. It could be interactive. So while it's not responsive, their site's not responsive, it still gives a better online reading experience where you get the SEO benefits, and it kind of opens the doors to do other things. So what's my process here? We are definitely a Word-based organization. All of our researchers are writing in Word. Some of the mathematically inclined are writing in LaTeX, but I won't get into that. So we start with a Word document, and we make sure that that Word document is well styled, that all the headings are given the proper style definitions, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, so on. And then I use a tool called word2cleanhtml.com. It's really great, and there are others out there, but that's what I use. You just take the text from your Word document, paste it into this tool, hit convert, and what it gives you is clean HTML based on that document. That it keeps the italics, it keeps the headings, it keeps the bolds, but it strips out all that other stuff that Word puts into its HTML. You can probably do the same thing with your paste from Word function in your CMS. I know our Drupal site will do something similar natively, but I'm just used to the online tool. So I get the code, put that into the CMS, and then it's adding a little CSS, linking to different style sheets and linking to different JavaScript files. Again, that's optional. Now, that's great. People can read these things online in a nice way, but I found, quite surprisingly, a lot of people still print out from our website. They print out our blogs a lot, and they certainly print out our briefs. And that made me realize, God, we better pay attention to what these things look like when you print. So I spent some time on the print CSS definitions, so you can define, when this page is printed, this is how I want it to look. And that opened up a real opportunity here, which is that I can create the PDF for these documents from the online content, which has been a real breakthrough, rather than starting with a PDF and then trying to get that content online, which is kind of laborious. I can just create an HTML product, hit print. I get a nice formatted for print output publication, print it to the PDF, and that's the file then that I upload to the server and give for download. So again, create the PDF from the online content. It's really a time saver. If there's a mistake or you need to update the brief, you just do it in the CMS, print the PDF again, and everything's up to date. Well, you might be asking, that's great, it looks good, it's a little bit of work, but does it work? Does it have benefits? And I can say that it does. We're tracking these pretty carefully in analytics. What we find is that these full text publications are getting 7 times more newsletter signups than the traditional kinds. It's getting 4 times more tweets and Facebook likes using the buttons on the page. And we're getting 2 times fewer PDF downloads conversion rate, which is fine. It means that more people are reading that content online, which is good for us because then we know how long they've spent on that page. We know how far down they've scrolled on it. We just get more information about whether that publication has been successful or not than if it's a downloaded PDF, at which point you just lose touch with it completely. So we've done that for the briefs, and I've done it a bit for other types of publications, for essays and other long-form publications. And then, it just gives you a starting point where you can start adding other types of content. You can start adding interactive charts. You can do infographics like on the left on this slide, or you can embed videos. This essay on the right is a new one. My former Minister of Finance from Zimbabwe. This essay is getting close to 12% average time on page on our site with thousands of views. So that's just a huge amount of engagement there. So again, just a wrap up of the steps that I've used here. You can start in Word, just clean it up, get that clean HTML, put that HTML into your existing CMS. That alone is going to give you a lot of benefits. If you have the time, money, or wherewithal, you can make CSS changes or some JavaScript to really make these things come alive. And with that, I will hand it back over to Lisa.
Thanks, John. We're just going to go through some quick takeaways for this presentation. Number one should be the long-form content and digital-first publishing can help you extend your reach and position you as a thought leader in your sector. There's a low barrier of entry for transitioning to digital-first, as John just explained to you. And you just got to start small by publishing your text and images online. And then with the examples that we've shown, I hope that we've proven that long-form content is effective. And I hope that digital-first publishing and long-form content no longer feels like really scary to you all. And that what we've shared today is useful for your own work. And remember, none of us are expecting you to be the New York Times and produce Snowfall for your first publication. And also, with digital-first publishing, it does take time at first, but it will pay off and actually save you time in the future. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Kurt for questions.
Thanks, guys. That's pretty compelling. 7 times more email newsletter signups. I like it. Now is the time we will take your questions online, so please feel free to submit them via the GoToMeeting console. And we have a few already. So the first question is for you, Lisa, I think, and it is from Jennifer. It's pretty specific. What's the source that you mentioned for those stats about people remembering 80% of what you see, 20% of what they read, and 10% of what they hear?
I got it from an infographic on Fast Company, and I can make that available when we share the slides out.
Fantastic. So this is a question that I hear a lot, and Lisa or John, neither of you can answer this one. But when you are working to build buy-in for this type of initiative within your organization with senior stakeholders or executives, what, in your experience, is the most effective way to get your boss on board?
Well, I'd say I was pretty lucky in that regard. I was able to carve out some time and just kind of experiment. You know, that's a nice thing about my working environment. But I think it has been helpful just to start small. You start with maybe one publication. You will see results if you do it well, and then you can present those results to your higher ups. Say, look, people spend more time on these pages. They like it more. They tweet it more. They sign up for newsletters more. And you know, I think your higher ups are going to respond to that sort of thing. So if you can get permission to start small and see how it goes, I think that's the way to do it.
Yes, start small and track it. Make sure that if you're testing, you're getting those stats to back it up. That's great. Ricardo asks, how does full text compare to digital magazines, like if you're using issue.com or magazines contained within apps? Any thoughts on those approaches? I know in the past we've seen a lot of kind of content-centric organizations use things like issue to publish their, quote, full text online.
Well, from what I've heard from the publishing from a lot of the apps that I've seen, people actually read the print magazines more than they do the online or the apps. And with a responsive website, the way that we're talking, you're going to probably see more people are reading it that way than say those apps. I can't be sure.
Okay.
So we used Issue for a while just to add some kind of visual embellishments to the website and would present our PDF publications through an issue player. And it was nice, but it's still the same PDF. So, you know, there may be ways to get some interactivity in there or not. I'm not quite sure, but it's pretty much, in my experience, just presenting a static thing. It might look really nice, but it's not as interactive as you can get with native HTML.
Right. And presumably you don't get all of those search engine optimization benefits because I think some of them are now HTML5, but I know when many were using Issue for a lot of our customers in the past, it was actually Flash-based, I think, viewing experience. So those are some of the downsides to using something like Issue as opposed to full text HTML. Here's another question from the audience. Elizabeth asks, how are the infographics interactive in the AAMC example?
So infographics aren't typically interactive, but there are some interactive visual data visualizations. That's where the interactives are on that example.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that online report, Lisa, and you're right. The infographics are there really just to punch up and draw attention to some of the key findings as you're browsing the online full text. So the infographics are not interactive. However, I think that there's about 30 to 50 charts and graphs and tables and maps within that report. And most of the charts and graphs are lightly interactive, I would say. So you can select a single variable to display. And this was actually one of the big benefits that AAMC saw from this, is that you can do things in presenting the data digitally, obviously, that you just simply can't do online. In fact, the report that you can't do in print, the print report was about 35 pages longer than the online report, simply because you could display the tables in line more effectively. You could select and filter what would take 10 pages of data tables that you'd have to flip through in order to show more than one variable, for example, could be done just by sorting or filtering online. The same is true with the lightweight interactives and maps. We touched on this a little bit, but here's another question about changing within the organization to accommodate long-form content. So what needs to change within the organization? John, you guys kind of like did this, you kind of bootstrapped it to get it rolling. Knowing what you know about that, what are some of the things that what do you recommend that where you could focus on kind of changing from this print-centric to digital-centric way of publishing your content?
You know, I think maybe a good place to start, it might not be in this easy level of effort, but a good place to start might be your annual report. A lot of organizations are moving or have moved to do online annual reports, either entirely online or the best version is online, and then the print is sort of the ancillary product. You know, I'm not sure that's a good example because a lot of people in your organization are used to getting print annual reports, but I think, you know, that's one where you can really make a kind of splash And if you do an online annual report and you do it well and people like it, then I think moving to other publication types might be, people might be willing to give you that leeway.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is really compelling about the way you guys are doing this, John, is that you're not trying to editorially recraft the way in which your experts and your researchers are presenting, are telling their own story. They're still completely in control of their own content. I'd be curious, though, kind of in this like changing organizationally, now are they starting to see like the success of the reports that do have light interactive data elements in them or embedded videos? Are they starting to think about their actual authoring of their content any differently now that they're starting to see these things more frequently?
I think we're starting to see that. I'm definitely seeing people wanting that sort of content. They want infographics. They want interactive, tweetable pull quotes, things like that. The challenge, I think, is to get your researchers and your authors to realize that it does take some time. They can't deliver a report and say it would be great to have an infographic. So the challenge that we are addressing, and I think a lot of organizations, is just getting the communications team involved upstream so that we know what's coming our way, so that we can plan like, hey, this would be great to do an infographic. It's going to take us a couple of days to get it together, maybe longer. So I'm starting to see that process where people definitely want it, but we have more of a way to go getting them to realize that means they need to tell us about it maybe a week before they want it on the website.
Yeah, and I can definitely see how demand for it helps you also, from a centralized communication standpoint, editorially plan for these things to become more routine and become more efficient in producing an infographic by standardizing on tools or approaches or even just presentation layer. So actually, this is a good transition question or related to this in the weeds, really, is from Kevin online, who's asking, is there an easy tool to enable a reader to tweet a pull quote from the content on your site in the way that you're doing it in your template? Is it just a little custom JavaScript you do? Like, he didn't ask that. Those are mine.
There may be a tool. I'm not sure. I have seen sites. I forget which one. Maybe you guys know. There's a site, a news site, where you can highlight any text, right-click on it, and tweet it. That, I don't know if they custom built that or if that's a third-party thing, but that might be, maybe someone listening knows what that is and could remind me.
Right.
I'm not using a third-party tool. It's just when that page loads, there's a little bit of JavaScript that searches for the pull quotes. And when it finds each one, it creates the necessary buttons and code to make that tweetable. So it's kind of custom, but there might be tools out there that are ready to go.
So Kevin, fire up Firebug or your code inspector and copy John's JavaScript. Alternatively, there are some other things that you can do. Twitter has an interesting sharing format called Twitter cards that a lot of CMSs support. It's a little bit, it is at the page level, most of it, because it's metadata driven. There's some great integrations with Twitter cards for Drupal that are available, and I believe for WordPress as well. And you guys have all seen the tweets that are a little bit richer than just a simple kind of like URL, where they might include a gallery of photos or kind of a summary already of the text. Those are called Twitter cards if you Google it, and integrations with your CMS are probably available. Let's see. Kirby wants to know, maybe this is good for you, Lisa. How does the design process differ, if at all, from creating a basic PDF?
So the design process doesn't change that much. I would say that you want your designers involved probably earlier so that we know what to create, so that while you're creating or while somebody's writing, that you can also be creating, like, infographics or anything more intricate. But I wouldn't say that it's too much different. I mean, you're using different tools, obviously. Instead of using InDesign for your PDF, you're probably using the CMS and creating graphics and then importing them. So it's a little different. But the sooner you get designers working on this stuff and working with your authors, the better planned out it will be, and the better it'll come out in the end too. Your content's gonna look great.
Yeah, certainly there's a spectrum because you showed us kind of you can go really trying to design and craft the story itself, working really closely with authors, a la the kind of New York Times Snowfall interactive pieces, or CGD is going a long way by kind of inheriting the content and then just kind of putting the design process. It sounds like not as ideally it's more upstream, but that's where it is today in that transition point. So Kirby, you can kind of tailor it to where your starting point needs to be, I would think, within your organization. But sooner is better, starting the design. Yeah. Just a reminder that we will be distributing a recording of this webinar, all the slides, to anyone who registered. So you make sure that you check your email in the next couple of days. We'll also have a simple survey for how you liked it. We always like to have ways to improve our resources and content for you guys. We still have about 7 minutes left till the top of the hour. If there's any other questions from the audience, feel free to insert them into the question box. I've got a question for you, John, which is, you guys have really purposely, kind of methodically moved this from everything's PDF to now you've got a subset of your outputs getting real benefits from this long form approach. What do you see as the next steps for you guys to push in this? Is it kind of catching everything else up to this, or is it taking briefs in new directions? What's next in your mind for CGD's publications online?
One thing I'm really looking at now is the data visualization part, and even just when you have tables of numbers, there are pretty simple ways now to just liven that stuff up. So that's where, as a think tank that's doing a lot of economic research and dealing in numbers, we value data, we value data transparency, and I think that's where I want to start taking some of these publications, is just to make sure, if you have anything that has data to do with it, I want that data to be live in one way or the other. If it's not an infographic, maybe it's just a table that is exportable in CSV, or that's you can sort it in different ways.
Right.
Just something to make the document more attached to the document in a live way, to the data in a live way.
Gotcha. Yeah. So next steps so moving from those the images of the data to the data itself and making it more interactive and shareable. Yeah, I know that another next step, once you get there, that is I'm seeing in other successful kind of influential NGOs like Pew Research, where once you've got that data within the report interactive, it's nice to make that stuff come out of the report so that you can have it live by itself and be more easily shareable, and those findings become pointers to your deep, rich content instead of the other way around. There's a lot of kind of influencer audience, new media organizations that are really kind of eager for those data tidbits, so you can get them to them. That's great. Let's see. I think we've got. We actually there's one question from the audience. We have about 4 minutes left, and this will be our last question. Beth asks, many of our audience members live in developing countries with intermittent internet access. Do you have general information on whether more people in developing countries are reading on mobile, or other strategies to reach these audiences?
I don't have like industry-wide information. These guys, my colleagues here, but I'll give an example of that essay by the Zimbabwean finance minister. And I mentioned that it's getting thousands of views with 10 minutes on page. Most of that was from Zimbabwe. And you know, that was really cool because we tend to reach inside the Beltway audience, or at least a North American or European audience. And it was great to have some really engaging writing find an audience in another country. And you know, I didn't see any indication that the connectivity was a problem or that the format was a problem for the web connections that they had.
Thanks. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. This was a really interesting and hopefully useful conversation for those of you who joined us. Just a final reminder, we will be making available the slides and the recording of today's webinar, so be sure to check your email in the next couple of days and let us know how we did with our survey. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.